It's Thursday, October 16th, 2025, and here's the latest happenings inside the federal machine. President Zelenskyy will be traveling to Washington to meet with President Trump tomorrow in the Oval Office to discuss the 2-hour conversation Trump had with Putin today. Also, the International Maritime Organization is meeting in London this week to vote on a global carbon tax. The Trump administration said the United States will strongly oppose this attempt to tax the United States in order to please a Green New Scam Bureaucracy. The move by China to bottleneck rare earth minerals around the world has helped fuel JPMorgan's decision to establish a $1.5 trillion fund for American industries. Also, the FBI has arrested over 20 Antifa terrorists in the state of Texas, and they all have been indicted on federal terrorism charges in connection to the Prairieland ICE attack on July 4th. And President Trump announced he will be deploying federal troops to clean up crime in the city of San Francisco, California. And today, the Democrats voted to shut down the government again for the 10th freaking time. Also today, Senator Mitch McConnell took a nasty fall in Congress today, but he appears to be okay as he was walking on his own following the incident. And there's a lot more that happened today, so I'm just going to dive right in. But by the way, I reached 100 subscribers. Thank you all so much for giving the channel a sub. And if you're new, I hope you find the videos to be informative, helpful, and sometimes lighthearted in the face of the crazy world we find ourselves in these days. And not everything that I cover will be a blockbuster breaking news story, but my intention is to cover all the important stuff I can regarding our government, which, sometimes will include the not so dramatic stuff because, of course, some of the halls of our government can be rather lackluster, but I won't cover anything that isn't important to some degree. And a full disclosure, I'm not registered with either party, but I do lean conservative, and I'm under the current belief that Republicans often lack a spine and Democrats lack brains. So that said, I won't hold anything back when either party needs to get called out. So anyway, thank you once again for subscribing to the channel, and on with the show. So I've got this from the GOP, from President Donald J. Trump's Truth Social account. I have just concluded my telephone conversation with President Vladimir Putin of Russia, and it was a very productive one. Let's see if I can make this a little bigger. Yeah, there we go. President Putin congratulated me and the United States on the great accomplishment of peace in the Middle East, something that he said has been dreamed of for centuries. I actually believe that the success in the Middle East will help in our negotiation in attaining an end to the war with Russia and Ukraine. President Putin thanked the First Lady, Melania, for her involvement with children. He was very appreciative and said that this will continue. We also spent a great deal of time talking about trade between Russia and the United States when the war with Ukraine is over. At the conclusion of the call, we agreed that there will be a meeting of our high-level advisors next week. The United States' initial meetings will be led by Secretary of State Marco Rubio, together with various other people to be designated. A meeting location is to be determined. President Putin and I will then meet in an agreed-upon location, Budapest, Hungary, to see if we can bring this inglorious war between Russia and Ukraine to an end. President Zelenskyy and I will be meeting tomorrow in the Oval Office, where we will discuss my conversation with President Putin and much more. I believe great progress was made with today's telephone conversation. So there's nothing else. There's no thank you attention to this matter. There's no President Donald J. Trump, President of the United States of America. But anyway, that's okay. I mean, we all get it at this point. So, all right. And I got this from Rapid Response 47 with regard to the Putin and Trump call today. So, quote, they have agreed to convene a meeting on their high-level staff next week to continue these very important discussions, which may be followed by yet another meeting between President Trump and President Putin.
I just left the Oval Office and spoke with the President, the Secretary of State, and the Vice President about the call. And the President, first of all, deserves tremendous credit for how much time and effort he has put into solving peace in the Middle East, which everyone said
he wouldn't be able
to do. There were many doubters about the President and his national security team, and they are getting it done. And now with respect to the Russia-Ukraine war, which the President continues to be wholeheartedly committed to ending, it was a very good and productive call between the President and President Putin.
2 hours, man. man.
discussed many issues. President Putin congratulated the president for solving peace in the Middle East. They also discussed, of course, the Russia-Ukraine war, and they have agreed to convene a meeting of their high-level staff next week to continue these very important discussions, which may be followed by yet another meeting between President Trump and President Putin. I believe the president will be putting out his own statement on this matter momentarily, so everyone should keep their eyes on Truth Social. But it was a good and productive call. And then, of course, we will welcome President Zelenskyy here to the White House again tomorrow so the president can continue those conversations with the Ukrainian side of this conflict.
Yeah, I'll definitely be keeping an eye out on Trump's Truth Social posts as they come out. And, I mean, look, rapid response, the GOP, I mean, there's a number of accounts that are on top of it on my behalf, really. But anyway, from the White House, President Zelenskyy and I will be meeting tomorrow in the Oval Office, where we will discuss my conversation with President Putin and much more. I believe great progress was made with today's telephone conversation. President Donald J. Trump. And from Nick Sordor, breaking. Following a 2-hour phone call this morning, President Trump announces he and Vladimir Putin have agreed to meet in Budapest to try to end the war in Ukraine once and for all. The peace president never stops. Make this the 9th war you've ended. Number 47. And we got another one from Rapid Response. POTUS on his phone call with President Putin. Secretary Rubio, he's going to be meeting with his counterpart, and they'll be meeting pretty soon. I thought it was a very good phone call. I thought very productive, but I'll be meeting with President Putin, and we will make a determination.
You also posted about your call with President Putin today, and you spoke about the meeting in Hungary with him. Do you have a timeline or a date set for when?
Yeah, I would say within 2 weeks or so. Pretty quick. Marco Rubio is going to be meeting with his counterpart, as you know, Lavrov, and they'll be meeting pretty soon. They're going to set up a time and a place very shortly. Maybe it's already set up.
Dude, they must have made some real progress, man.
And
this is moving really quick.
Phone call. I thought very productive. But I'll be meeting with President Putin, and we'll make a determination. Tomorrow I'm meeting with President Zelenskyy, and I'll be telling him about the call. I mean, we have a problem. They don't get along too well, those two, and it's
well,
sometimes tough to have.
Look, man, can you blame him? Can you blame Zelenskyy? I mean, Russia fucking invaded his country. I wouldn't get along with him very well either if I were him.
We may do something where we're separate but equal. We'll meet and talk parties, but this is a terrible relationship the two of them have, and it's one of those things. I've seen things that nobody would believe, but this is one of them. So I'll be meeting.
I mean, it runs deep,
Hungary.
man.
Viktor Orban is going to be hosting, and it's really something that's time. Last week, over 7,000 people were killed. That's ridiculous. And
Last
it doesn't
week?
affect our
Holy
country.
shit.
We're not losing people. We're not losing Bobby. We're not losing Americans. But they're losing Russians,
Oh, thank
Ukrainians,
God.
mostly soldiers, for the most part, soldiers. And we think we're going to get it. We hope we're going to get it stopped. I thought this would be, because of my relationship with President Putin, I thought this would be very quick. And it's
Nope.
turned out to be, who would think I did Middle East before I did this? We did it.
Yeah, no
of
shit.
8 now, 7 and now 8.
No
And,
shit, man.
We're going to make this number 9.
Yeah, I wouldn't have had that on my bingo card either, that he would have solved the Middle East before he would have solved Russia and Ukraine. But Putin, he wants to bring back the Soviet Union. That's what I keep hearing. He wants to recollect it back into the Union. So, I mean, I guess I could understand if that's really his primary objective as to why he doesn't want to give up Ukraine so easily. I don't know. I'm not so sure. But I guess we'll believe it when we see it. If there's a ceasefire, there's a ceasefire. But I guess we'll just keep our eyes peeled as to what happens next week. Well, it's starting tomorrow, actually. He's going to talk with Zelenskyy about it. So we'll see if they give us any details on that. I'm sure he will. I mean, Trump's always been, at least he seems to have always been pretty transparent. All right. And then I've got this also from Donald J. Trump's Truth Social. I am outraged that the International Maritime Organization is voting in London this week to pass a global carbon tax. The United States will not stand for this global Green New Scam tax on shipping and will not adhere to it in any way, shape, or form. We will not tolerate increased prices on American consumers or the creation of a Green New Scam Bureaucracy to spend your money on their green dreams. Stand with the United States and vote no in London tomorrow. I have a feeling, a sneaking suspicion, that most countries are probably going to vote yes. I'm sure they will. If we're talking Western nations, yeah, they're all probably going to vote yes. It's just nice to hear that we're not going to be participating in it. Thank God that Kamala Harris ain't president, because I mean, we got enough problems in our economy as it is. I know the federal government, they like to talk about our economy as rocking and rolling, full steam ahead. It's party time, but no, not especially not in the middle class. And we don't want our tax money to be going to this fucking green bullshit. No, man, we need to, we got a lot of shit to do before we even start thinking about dumping money into crap that's not really based all that much in reality. We're still coming out of the ice age, for crying out loud. I mean, yeah, no wonder sea levels are rising by a millimeter every 600-700 years. It's because we're coming out of the last ice age. That tends to happen when you come out of the last ice age cycle. All right, Ambassador Mike Waltz, as POTUS and Secretary Rubio have made clear, the United States is a hard no on IMO HQ, and this is International Maritime Organization, their global carbon tax scheme that harms the American consumer. We're calling on other nations to vote with us or face serious consequences. I really like to hear this, man, because I haven't heard anything about this until today. Have they been... did this just really just come up out of nowhere? Or did they just drop this bomb on us at the last minute or something? Or what? Because, I mean, I've been paying attention to the government on a daily basis for months at this point. I've not heard anything about this until just now. So I find that to be kind of strange. But anyway. Oh, man, that's really quiet. Hold on. I'll start it over.
Right, Secretary Rubio.
Fox News, man. Why are you so quiet?
Duffy have been this is a bigger deal than I think anybody realizes. Our Secretary of Energy, Wright, Secretary Rubio, Secretary of Transportation Duffy have been loud and clear on this. The United States is a hard no. This would essentially put a global tax
I haven't heard them say a peep on this,
that
man.
is involved in trade and that everything that goes on a ship.
Like green mania.
Yeah, but here's the thing: is this is trying to drive carbon emissions from shipping to zero.
It's stupid. Fucking stupid.
The EU is subsidizing certain types of biofuels, and if you change out how these ships are fueled, you have to go to Chinese shipyards and Chinese ports.
Of course
this
you
is
do.
A win for the EU and their global.
Yeah, and you think China's gonna get on board with this? No, of course they're not gonna get on board with this. But what would they have us do? We're not gonna install solar panels all over our freaking our container ships. And what, they're going to try to power it with what, wind energy or some shit? That's not going to fucking work. Are we going to go back to like the 1700s and just put up giant sails on all of our container ships from now on, and we're just going to sail across the ocean with no fuel whatsoever? Look, the only rational thing that they could do is nuclear power everything. I mean, we've got nuclear powered aircraft carriers as submarines. It doesn't sound too crazy that we could probably nuclear power all of our giant shipping vessels, but that's not something they're going to fix anytime soon. And plus, the EU has taken a pretty firm stance on their position with regard to nuclear energy. They fucking hate it. And I don't understand why, other than the fact that, yeah, there could theoretically be a meltdown here and there, possibly. But a lot of that's ancient history. The way that they're building nuclear power plants these days, they've got so many fail-safes and so many contingency plans. And plus, just the makeup of the nuclear fuel rods these days. I mean, I know it's not the case for all nuclear facilities. There's a lot that are still decades old. But for the most part, what they're manufacturing today is a hell of a lot safer than it's been in the past. But
regulatory tyranny. This is a win for China. This is a loss for the American consumer, and we're going to fight it at every turn. And this is the kind of stuff, again, the Biden administration would just kind of let this stuff go by.
Yeah, they would.
Going to
100%.
fight, block, and tackle. Well, right now, we're fighting hard to defeat this vote, and we're calling on every nation to stand with us.
They need,
but if they don't,
they need 176.
But if they don't, we're talking sanctions on some of these officials. We're talking fees on our ports and not allowing access to our market. We're not going to take this lying down.
Well, good. That's exactly the way it should be, because it is a scam. It's a big, giant scam. And what the hell are they going to use all this tax money for anyway? I'm sure they probably haven't gone into great detail as to what they're going to do with it. Plus, like he said, there's the issue with China. China, they're not getting on board with any of this shit. And a great sizable percentage of the pollution that's happening globally is coming directly from China. All right, so I've got Senator Jim Banks. Now the UN wants to impose its own global carbon tax, which would be a direct hit on working families in Indiana and across America. Glad to see Secretary Rubio standing firm against the UN's woke climate agenda. And we've got this from Secretary Marco Rubio. This week, the UN is attempting to pass the first global carbon tax, which will increase energy, food, and fuel costs across the world. We will not allow the UN to tax American citizens and companies. Under the leadership of the president, the U.S. will be a hard no. We call on other nations to stand alongside the United States in defense of our citizens and sovereignty. So we've got this from the, let's see, is that Washington Journal? Yeah, or Wall Street Journal. I always get that mixed up. They always paywall me, so it wouldn't surprise me if I got paywalled again. I always get paywalled from them. Voters are showing their opposition to the net zero climate agenda whenever they get the chance, but that isn't stopping the United Nations, which this week is poised to impose what amounts to a global tax on carbon emissions. Yes, this is the definition of taxation without representation. Yeah, amen. So the International Maritime Organization, IMO, a UN body based in London, hopes at its meeting this week to secure final approval for its net zero framework for shipping. The measure would impose charges per metric ton of carbon dioxide that ships emit above certain limits. The tax would be $100 or $380 per metric ton. $380 per metric ton. Yeah, dude, that's going to be extremely expensive if that actually goes through. Yeah, absolutely fucking ridiculous. Plus, it all goes back to China. I mean, everybody's importing all kinds of shit from China. If China says no, what are you going to do? You're just going to say, okay, fine, China, you get a pass, because they give China a pass on everything. China's always getting a pass on shit. All right, so I got this from Rapid Response 47. U.S. Trade Rep Ambassador Greer, I think the Chinese actions have really galvanized not only the government, but even private industry in the United States. You saw JPMorgan earlier this week announced a $1.5 trillion fund to invest in manufacturing in the U.S. for critical sectors. So this is a related segue, but only in terms of China. We're now off the UN, the Green Scam and all that. This is with regard to China clamping down on rare earth minerals.
I think the United States made an equity investment into the Mountain Pass mine several weeks ago. The president recently signed an order to have a road built out to Ambler Road, which is an area in Alaska where there are critical minerals. We have taken a stake in a specialty metals company. I think there are more things coming down the road. So I think the Chinese actions have really galvanized not only the government, but even private industry in the United States. You saw JPMorgan earlier this week announced a $1.5 trillion fund to invest in manufacturing in the U.S. for critical sectors. So, the U.S., both private and public, I think is on their way to really diversifying and de-risking from that leverage situation.
Yeah, that's huge news, man. And this is a huge misstep from China, because it just reminds American industries that you can't rely on China, because they could clamp down and just cut you off anytime they damn well please. All right, U.S. Trade Rep Ambassador Greer on China. It's a quote, so I'll just let him say it himself.
There are plenty of questions about the Chinese economy. How would you assess the Chinese economy today?
Well, their youth unemployment is quite high. It's over 20%.
Wow.
For growth,
over 20% in China.
They've outlasted the possibility of having real estate growth or infrastructure growth, so they're really focused on just exporting, and they have enormous amounts of overcapacity in manufacturing. They can't flood the U.S. market anymore because President Trump has put tariffs in place. And so they're starting to find other markets to push their things. So their economy has some structural challenges.
Yeah, and I have a feeling maybe with this whole bottlenecking that they're trying to do with rare earth minerals, if this might be their way of trying to jack up the prices. Kind of reminds me of how they handled diamonds in the 20th century. Well, actually, they probably still do that with diamonds today, where they hoard diamonds to keep them expensive on the market. I wonder if China is going to try to make that play with rare earth minerals, because apparently with some of the rare earth minerals, they have a virtual monopoly on them, because they go into Africa, they go into South America, and they mine it. Or they secure leases on land, so they have exclusive rights to those rare earth minerals in those locations. So I don't know if that's their play. Sounds like that's probably their play, but I don't know. We'll have to see. Anyway, that by the way, this policy from China goes into effect on November the 1st, and it doesn't just affect the United States. It affects every country in the world. All right, so China's escalatory actions have galvanized both the U.S. government and private industry. Just this week, JPMorgan announced a $1.5 trillion fund to support industries crucial to U.S. national security. The United States must de-risk and diversify supply chains to protect the economic and national security of the American people.
Chinese actions have really galvanized not only the government, but even private industry in the United States.
Actually, I think we already saw that, didn't we? I believe we already saw that. It came from a different profile. Okay, yeah, it is. 43 seconds. Well, yeah, that instantly sounded familiar, but anyway, I'll move on. So, United States Trade Representative, China's use of unfair trade practices has distorted the global shipbuilding market, undermining the competitiveness of American companies. the administration is taking action to reverse China's dominance and usher in a U.S. shipbuilding renaissance.
This is something that has been in the works for many, many months. Back in April, the U.S. Sent a very clear signal, released notices, and gave a lot of details on how it was going to do this. Again, we're trying to carve out a situation where U.S. shipbuilding can have a renaissance. We have the Koreans who have invested in the Philly shipyard. We have a couple of orders for LNG carriers there. China, over the past couple of decades, has really distorted the global market for shipping, so it makes it hard for a country like the U.S. or other.
Well, and also the Finland prime minister, isn't it? President, prime minister. I think it's prime minister of Finland met with Trump last week, or maybe it was the week before last, but they announced a deal where Finland, they're going to build 4 icebreakers in the United States. I believe they're doing that like in the U.S. in one of our shipyards that Finland's going to help us work on getting 4 of them built.
Countries to have a share. We also impose port fees on roll-on, roll-off vehicles from all countries, so it's not just China specific. And we've heard from the major carriers that they're actually not going to increase their fees to customers because of the port fees. So this is something where we've tried to thread a needle. The Chinese, again, are overreacting like they've done before. But I think at least on the U.S. side, there's been a lot of effort to craft this remedy in a way that promotes shipbuilding but also ensures we can export.
Well, of course, and plus China knows that with these new tariffs in place, it's hurting them, and it's definitely going to hurt them in the long game. And if what he said is true, that 20% of young Chinese adults are unemployed, man, that's a problem. That's a big problem. All right, FBI Director Kash Patel, we're moving on to the next topic. First time ever, the FBI arrested Antifa-aligned anarchists, violent extremists, and terrorism charges have been brought for the July 4th Prairieland ICE attack in Texas. Under President Trump's new authorities, we've made 20-plus arrests. No one gets to harm law enforcement, not on my watch. And we do have an article from Fox News that Kash Patel linked down here in the comments. And DOJ brings first Antifa-related terrorism charges in Texas ICE attack. FBI Director Kash Patel calls July 4th incident planned and coordinated terrorist attack. Uh-oh. It's starting to happen, man. Antifa, they're finally getting they're getting what's owed to them. I guess I'll just put it that way. Anyway, the indictment. Okay, so a federal grand jury indicted 2 alleged Antifa members with terrorism-related charges for a July 4th attack on an ICE facility in Texas. Why 2? I thought it was over 20. Anyway, the indictment issued Wednesday and unsealed Thursday charges Cameron Arnold and Zachary Evans with providing material support for terrorism, attempting to murder federal and assisting officers, and discharging firearms during attempted murders. Quote, for the first time ever, the FBI has arrested anarchist violent extremists and charged these Antifa-aligned individuals with material support to terrorism, FBI Director Kash Patel said in a statement. This was a planned and coordinated terrorist attack on the Prairieland Detention Center in Alvarado, Texas, where armed extremists tried to murder U.S. officers on July 4th. We are executing under President Trump's new authorities at record speed. To date, the FBI has made over 20 arrests tied to this case and related Antifa networks. No one gets to harm law enforcement, not on our watch. Okay, so that's where the 20 came from. So they've already indicted at least 18 others. And this is, okay, so Attorney General Pam Bondi also hailed the charges, vowing further prosecutions against Antifa members. And she says, as the president has made clear, Antifa is a left-wing terrorist organization, and they will be prosecuted as such. And these are the charging documents, the indictments that we've got here that was shared by Fox News and reposted by Pamela Bondi, filed on October 15th. So this was yesterday. And so the indictment reads, the grand jury charges the attack late at night on the 4th of July, 2025, a North Texas Antifa cell of at least 11 operatives clad in black and donning masks, some of whom were wearing body armor and carrying firearms, attacked the Prairieland Detention Center in Alvarado, Texas. The U.S. Department of Homeland Security was using Prairieland to house illegal aliens awaiting deportation. Members of the Antifa cell began shooting fireworks toward the facility and vandalizing vehicles in a guard shed. Alarmed at the presence of people near the facility late at night, DHS correction officers inside the facility went outside to investigate. Other DHS personnel called local police for assistance. Within minutes, an officer from the Alvarado Police Department arrived on scene, stepped out of his cruiser, and began issuing commands to a black-clad figure running towards another black-clad figure holding a rifle. One Antifa member, co-conspirator number 1, yelled, "Get to the rifles." Seconds later, co-conspirator 1 opened fire on the officers, striking the Alvarado police officer in the neck. As the unarmed correctional officers ducked and ran for cover, the wounded officer fell to the ground but was unable to return a few shots. Co-conspirator 1 continued to fire additional rounds until his rifle jammed. The attackers then left the scene. Number 2, police arrested most of the Antifa cell shortly after the attack, many near the scene of the attack, including Zachary Evitz. Police arrested Cameron Arnold the following day. And the Antifa cell. Antifa is a militant enterprise made up of networks of individuals and small groups primarily ascribing to a revolutionary anarchist or autonomous Marxist ideology, which explicitly calls for the overthrow of the United States government, law enforcement authorities, and the system of law. Antifa adherents have espoused insurrection and advocated violence to affect the policy and conduct of the United States government by intimidation and coercion. Beginning in 2025, Antifa adherents have increasingly targeted agency and facilities related to DHS's immigration and customs enforcement in opposition to ICE's deportation actions and the U.S. government's policy on the removal of illegal aliens. And that's all we have. That's all we got for the indictment. Obviously, there's more, but that's all they shared. So, yeah, and so it begins, man. And the Treasury Department just announced yesterday that they're going to be following the money with regard to Antifa. So we're starting to get to the bottom of it, man. I'm sure it's going to be somewhat of a drawn out process, but look, man, the Trump administration, they're in for the next 3 years, more than 3 years. So yeah, man, Antifa, they got a long, hard road ahead of them, but it doesn't look like that they're slowing down anytime soon. They just keep ramping shit up day after day. All right, so this is from Secretary Brooke Rollins. Violent leftist rhetoric has to stop now. Farmers markets are a place for fresh produce, human connection, and community, not violent Democrat rhetoric calling for the murder of our president. We celebrated Charlie Kirk's birthday this week. He should have been there to celebrate with us, but a lunatic assassinated him in cold blood. These people want us dead, but they'll settle for our submission. We will give them neither. Amen.
In Wisconsin, Winnebago County Democrats are accused of giving a bracelet, which read, "Is he dead yet?" referring to President Donald Trump. They gave that bracelet at their stand at a farmer's market to an 8-year-old little boy. The market has now pulled that Democrats' booth for now and possibly permanently. That child's mother, Katie Neubauer, is with me now. Katie, first of all, how did you spot the bracelet? What was the conversation like with your son?
Like, you're not going to brainwash my child.
Well, we were down at the farmer's market having a conversation. My sister
at a fucking farmer's market, man.
Their booth, and they
freaking
had
savages.
free children's books out and bubbles blowing in the wind, and the kids were having a great time, and we didn't think much of it. We continued our conversation, and out of the corner of my eye, I see the man leaning over and giving one of our children a bracelet, and I kind of waited for it. I thought, oh, this is going to be fun, you know, whatever. But the child runs over, hands it to us, and we both look down, and my sister-in-law said, "I don't really know what it says." And I said, "Well, it says, 'Is he dead yet?'" And we both kind of look at each other in shock, and I walk back over to the table, and I hand it back to him, and I said, "We don't wear hate speech here." And I had to walk away because I was
beat him at their own game.
And I went and continued and bought a few more items, and then I decided to come back and confront them a second time. So at that point, I started going through the bracelets. I found others that contained not so nice language, including 8647, which I'm sure you've heard that one before.
Yeah, James
and
Comey.
I said, "Are any of these appropriate for children?" And he said, "No, I suppose they're not." And I said, "Okay, then why are you handing them to my 8-year-old child?" And I read off a couple others to them, and he picked up the basket and he said, "Well, here, I'll just remove them then." And I said, "Okay, that would be a good start."
Yeah, it'd be a good start.
So that's how that came about.
So their booth has been pulled, though. This escalated as it needed to escalate. And how did that go?
Yeah, I would hope so.
I called the farmer's market manager as I was walking home. We live very close to downtown. Our kids actually have a farmer's market booth every other week, and so we're down there a lot. We know the manager, and she was very kind, and she said, "You're not the first person to call and complain about their booth today." In fact, there were about 10 complaints.
I was going to say, well, manager lady, now you've got, one of the people that participates in your farmer's market on national television talking about it.
It's total that particular day.
Well, Katie, I know that this causes you to have a big boy conversation with your 8-year-old child. A lot of people are having those conversations with children right now around
unfortunately.
politics and really poor, dangerous decisions people are making. I'm glad your family and you are safe, and you spoke up. Thank you for being in focus.
Thank you.
Yeah, these people are fucking psychotic, man. They're absolutely psychotic. They're coming after your children. A lot of them can't have their own children, so they're coming after yours. All right, Trisha McLaughlin, the Chicago Tribune's Chicago man is a criminal illegal alien from Mexico and member of the Latin Kings gang who tried to pay for the murder of Chief Greg Bovino. Leave it to the media to carry water for this violent criminal. And she's responding to Laura N. Rodriguez Preza. DHS claims a high-ranking Latin Kings member from Chicago solicited the murder of top Border Patrol chief, but at his indictment, there was no mention of gang ties. His lawyer and family says DHS's narrative of Juan Espinoza Martinez is false. And I'll link it. I'm not going to really go through it, but I'll at least link this if you want to check it out. Chicago man indicted for allegedly soliciting killing of Gregory Bovino, but without contention of gang involvement. So, yeah, apparently it wasn't mentioned in court. I mean, obviously I wasn't there. So, anyway, but yeah, so this will be here in the description if you want to take a look at that on chicagotribune.com. And we'll hop over to the next. And where is it? Here we go. ABC 7 Eyewitness News. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy said he will withhold $40 million from California because it is the only state that is failing to enforce English language requirements for truckers. And this was posted 8 hours ago. I mentioned this yesterday. This has been a topic of discussion in the government for a couple of days now. So yeah, they're withholding federal funding because it's the only state failing to enforce the English language requirement for truckers. So anyway, that'll also be linked if you want to take a look at that. And also related from Secretary Sean Duffy himself, this isn't rocket science. The foreign truck driver who made an illegal U-turn and killed 3 people in Florida earlier this year got his trucking license in California. After the accident, he failed an English proficiency test. This administration cares about Americans being safe on our roads, even if local quote-unquote leaders like Gavin don't.
Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy says he'll withhold $40 million from California. He says the state is failing to enforce the English language requirements for truckers. Governor Gavin Newsom's office pushed back, saying the state's commercial truck drivers have a lower crash rate than the national average. Duffy launched his investigation back in August after an illegal immigrant killed 3 people while making an illegal U-turn on a Florida highway. His commercial license was issued in California. Investigators say the trucker failed an English proficiency exam after the crash.
To drive an 18-wheeler, a semi, a school bus, you have to speak English and you have to understand English. And you should be tested for this when you take your CDL exam. We sent out notices to all the states that they have to start to comply. All the states have complied, but one. That would be California. Gavin Newsom cares more about illegal migrants than he does about the safety of his citizens.
The driver in that fatal crash was charged with 3 counts of vehicular homicide and immigration violations. He is being held without bond.
Yeah, and he looks like he couldn't give a less of a shit either. If you look at that footage of the accident itself when that happened. Absolutely ridiculous, man. Homeland Security, sanctuary states like Massachusetts are not only harboring illegal alien child rapists, they're letting them prey on the most vulnerable in-state sponsored shelters. When will these sanctuary politicians stop protecting criminals? President Trump and Secretary Noem have unleashed ICE to arrest and remove these dangerous predators from our communities. And Secretary Noem, by the way, she's the Secretary of Homeland Security, Department of Homeland Security. And it looks like we might have an article on this as well. Yes, we do. From Fox News. Democrat governor in hot seat after whistleblower rips disturbing sentencing pattern for illegal child rapists. So I'm going to take a look at this because this is kind of wild, man. A former Massachusetts shelter director turned whistleblower is calling the sentencing of yet another illegal alien for raping a child at a taxpayer-funded shelter further evidence of a total government failure in the sanctuary state. Haitian illegal alien Corey Alvarez, 27, was found guilty of aggravated rape of a child at a migrant shelter in Rockland, Massachusetts, and sentenced to 10 to 12 years in prison, according to NBC 10 Boston. Dude, if that happened in Florida, he would have probably been our first death row case, because in the state of Florida, pedophilia can be a punishable sentence of death. We can put him to death now in the state of Florida. And that definitely sounds like it would probably suffice. Anyway, Alvarez was arrested by Rockland police in 2024 on a suspicion of sexual assault on a 15-year-old female victim. Both Alvarez and the victim were living at a state-run shelter at a Comfort Inn. Alvarez was arrested by U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement officers in August. According to the agency, he entered the country lawfully in 2023, but violated the terms of his admittance, meaning he was present in the country illegally. And there's the image of the asshole right here. There's asshole for you. All right, in response, Featherston, who ran a similar migrant shelter in Marlborough, Massachusetts from 23 to 24, said Alvarez's sentencing exposes a much bigger problem. Quote, call it what you will, but this is total government failure, he said. You have documented cases now of these girls being assaulted in shelters run with taxpayer dollars. No one at the top, including Governor Maura Healey, is taking any of the responsibility. Featherston has previously blown the whistle on rampant sexual abuse of children taking place in the Massachusetts-run shelter system. Unbelievable. Speaking with Fox News Digital in February, he detailed the case of another Haitian illegal alien, Ronald Joseph, who raped and impregnated his own 14-year-old daughter at the Marlborough shelter. Featherston said that when he and the authorities confronted Joseph about the rape, he became agitated and threatened him. Despite the gravity of the crime, Featherston said he was instructed to order Joseph a ride to another state-run shelter. What the fuck? Joseph was not arrested until months later. He has been sentenced to 12 to 15 years in prison for aggravated rape of a child. Unfucking believable. Only got 12 to 15 years, and I bet if he's on good behavior, he'll probably be out in 5 years? Featherston said that these two cases are not isolated, but rather a part of a larger, disturbing pattern of child sexual abuse that has largely gone unpunished. Unbelievable. But anyway, that'll be linked if you want to take a look at that as well. Just fucking insane, man. And these are the people that Democrats are protecting. These are the people they want to give your tax dollars to in the form of health insurance. How do you like that? RNC Senior Advisor Danielle Alvarez lays out the Democrats' real priorities. Quote, I think that it's unfortunate that Democrat leadership is fighting harder for illegal criminal aliens than American citizens, using taxpayer funds to protect their sanctuary cities. And that's from the GOP. So let's take a look at this.
I think that it's unfortunate that Democrat leadership is fighting harder for illegal criminal aliens than American citizens, again, using taxpayer funds to protect their sanctuary cities. And it's against our brave law enforcement, our brave ICE agents who have bounties on their heads from dangerous cartel members who want and are protesting against an open border because they are no longer making money from human trafficking, sex trafficking, drug trafficking. And then, as you all reported, they are doxing our brave ICE agents. And we know that there are
the masks.
Factions of the Democrat Party that are using online tools to also dox our ICE agents. So I think we need to be very clear and stand with law enforcement. We are a nation of law and order.
Oh, they're not only trying to use tools online, they're also weaponizing the government itself, at least in California, with Governor Gavin Newsom passing a law in California that requires any federal agents to uncover their faces when they're operating out in public, which, of course, that's not enforceable. He can't instruct federal agents what to do. But anyway, yeah, that's how far the Democrats have gone at this point. Anyway, Nick Sordor, breaking, President Trump just announced he will be surging federal agents into San Francisco to clean up crime. Long overdue. Gavin Newsom is gonna throw a fit, and a fit he will throw.
I talked about crime, but I never knew that we were going to get into it like we did. I used to watch these cities with the murders. Chicago recently had one deal where they had 11 murders in one weekend, and they said, well, yeah, but it was a holiday weekend. They actually told me that was the reason.
Oh, my God, dude.
Okay, because
people are evil.
Holiday. It was Labor Day. These people are the worst. They are.
Yeah, it was typical. Fucking 11 murders in the city. Oh, it was the holiday. It's to be expected. Sometimes people, they just go out and kill people on a holiday. It's no big deal.
You better, I tell you what, the people in Chicago and the people in places like that can be fixed. At some point, it gets to where you can't fix it anymore. It's too far gone. And we have some cities like that. But these are great cities that can be fixed. I'm going to be strongly recommending, at the request of government officials, which is always nice, that you start looking at San Francisco. I think we can make San Francisco there's one of our great cities 10 years ago, 15 years ago, and now it's a mess.
I wonder which officials were the ones that gave him a call.
So I'd like to recommend that for inclusion, maybe in your.
Yeah, wouldn't that be nice? I mean, and in spite of all the crime that's happening in San Francisco, what was that called? That poop app. I can't remember what it was called. It's an app that you can download on your phone that shows you in real time where human and animal feces are located on sidewalks around the city. And if you look at the whole map, it's just completely just filled up with brown emojis, like thousands of them. And they even have a government department, like the Department of I can't remember what it was called. It's like the Department of Fecal Matter or something like whatever. It's the Poop Patrol. It's what they are. That's what they're tasked with. They go around San Francisco and they clean up human waste all day. Like that's what they do. They actually have to pay people in the government to clean up after humans take a dump on the sidewalk in San Francisco. And despite all of that, it's still the most expensive city in America to live in. It's like the average property is like what, $2-3 million or something insane like that. It's absolutely mind-boggling that anybody would even want to live there. And President Trump is right. It used to be a very beautiful city. You remember the opening credits of Full House, like back in the 90s? It used to look like one hell of a pleasant place to live once upon a time. All right, rapid response 47. Stephen M. on J.B. Pritzker, and he's going to give it gives a quote. I prefer just to play the video because he's going to say the quote anyway in the video. But anyway, Stephen Miller, he's the Deputy Chief of Staff for Policy and Homeland Security Advisor to President Trump. So let's hear what he has to say.
Well, I mean, he's a fool and he's a moron, but also, most importantly, Sean, he hates America. And let's just be honest about it. You can't love your country.
He doesn't hate food.
And then fight President Trump to keep murderers murdering. Just think about that for a second. President Trump is saying, let us work with you, with the FBI, with ICE, with ATF, with DEA, with the National Guard, to stop the murdering in your city. And Pritzker is saying he wants to protect the murderers, the people that are
quite
shooting
literally
dozens and dozens of people every single week. Chicago is more dangerous than Baghdad. It's more dangerous than Mexico City. So shame on Pritzker, and God bless President Trump for fighting for the citizens of this country, Sean.
I mean, it's not like Trump is running for re-election or anything. They just don't want to give him a single win. That's how psychotic the Democrats really are. Homeland Security Brandon Johnson has shown time and time again that he does not care about the safety of our federal law enforcement officers or Chicagoans, while Chicago's mayor and Governor Pritzker continue to release pedophiles, rapists, gang members, and murderers onto Chicago's streets. Our brave law enforcement will continue to risk their lives without pay, by the way, to arrest these heinous criminals and make Chicago safe again.
Talk Brandon Johnson for a second. He signed an executive order banning ICE from Chicago-owned land. Can you tell us about what the Department of
unbelievable.
Homeland Security can do
he actually did that.
Counteract this, and will it impact what you guys are able to do in Chicago?
No,
it's
probably
really
not,
making
not
no
that much.
operational difference. It was just politics for the sake of politics.
Yeah, it's just them being a bunch of pieces of shit and just trying to virtue signal to their fucking radical leftist base. And basically what he signed some ordinance that prohibits federal agents to engage in any way on any kind of public property or city-owned property, which would include schools and parks and like parking lots owned by the city and places like that. But yeah, they've already come out and said that, like, well, you know, they could do that all they want. It's not going to affect us any.
That's exactly what Brandon Johnson continues to do, and we're seeing with J.B. Pritzker as well. But we are continuing, whether it be, MS-13 gang members, Tren de Aragua murders. These are just in the recent days who we've picked up off of the streets of Chicago. So when you have Brandon Johnson and J.B. Pritzker continuing to lie and whitewash the facts, we are getting the worst off of the streets, and we'll continue to do it with the backing of the National Guard, and we will continue to surge federal resources. This isn't going to deter us, and these bounties against our ICE law enforcement agents aren't going to deter us, and neither is the fact that J.B. Pritzker yesterday, right before...
Well, it can't deter them because it's federal law. If there's criminal illegal aliens out there, that's what ICE is there for. That's what they were put into place to do. Immigrations and Customs Enforcement. They're required by federal law to do exactly what they're doing. They don't have a choice because they exist, codified by Congress. They got to do it. I mean, it's not like that they could just ignore it because that can't happen. That's why they get paid.
before the news came out about these bounties, he
or will get paid whenever the Democrats open the damn government.
Last ICE law enforcement agent. These are men and women who are simply enforcing the rule of law that it's on the books and Congress. They're people just like everybody else who want to go home at night and see their kids and see their families, and them cranking up the rhetoric, cranking up the conduct, dehumanizing and vilifying these law enforcement agents is having real life consequences.
It's almost like they want Republicans to get on board with hate speech and start passing hate speech laws, because it seems like that's really the direction that they're trying to take things. All right, from Caroline Levitt, 175,000 Americans have applied for jobs at ICE, Immigrations and Customs Enforcement, and this is on Breitbart, but I think that probably gives the gist of it. But if you want to read the article, I'll leave it down in the description for you. And this is from Lori Trahan. Donald Trump is sending $40 billion to his buddy in Argentina, but he can't find a penny to help hardworking Americans afford their health care. So much for America first. And I've been down the road with this Affordable Care Act, the tax credits. They implemented them back in 2021 because of COVID. So trying to alleviate some financial pain from a lot of people. That's why they exist. They are expiring in November because COVID is over, and Democrats are trying to blame Republicans for it. But no, it was simply allowed to expire. So anyway, that's what they're posturing. And with regard to the $40 billion in Argentina, $20 billion, I'm not sure about the other $20 billion. I'm assuming it's probably in the form of a loan, although I'm not 100% on it. But I do know that $20 billion is being given to Argentina as a currency swap, which means that we're going to get $20 billion worth of Argentine pesos, and Argentina is going to get $20 billion in USD. So, and I believe I actually asked Grok just to confirm. And so I said, is the $40 billion currency swap with Argentina going to benefit the U.S. if Argentina's economy improves? I meant to put 20 billion. I put 40. But anyway, so Grok says, yes, the $40 billion financing package to Argentina, it includes a $20 billion currency swap that would benefit the U.S. if Argentina's economy improves, and enables full repayment without losses to U.S. funds, promotes pro-market reforms across Latin America to boost regional stability and trade, and it counters China's influence by strengthening U.S. geopolitical leverage in a key resource-rich economy. So as long as Argentina's economy improves, which it has been, at least since President Milei has been in power, it's improved substantially. As long as the value of the Argentine peso increases, we're going to essentially profit off that $20 billion because we're holding $20 billion worth of Argentine pesos. So, I mean, it's basically common sense, and I'm sure the Democrats know that. They just like to lie. So anyway, I said we're exchanging $20 billion USD for $20 billion worth of Argentine pesos. As Argentina's economy improves, we win on our holdings. If you listen to a Democrat, you will get brainwashed. And it's really sad to say that. I really wish I wouldn't have to say that. But, I mean, at this point, that's, what else can you say? If you listen to a Democrat, you're not going to get the full truth. In most cases, you're not going to get a single word of the truth, which is pretty pathetic today. Anyway, Tom Emmer, moving on. Whip K. Clark admits what we all know to be true. Democrats are using suffering Americans as leverage to achieve their far-left agenda. Absolutely shameful.
I mean, shutdowns are terrible. And of course, there will be, families that are going to suffer. We take that responsibility very seriously. But it is one of the few leveraged times we have. I mean...
Do you really think she actually gives a shit? So they're using it as leverage in the name of what? Political power. All right, from House Republicans, watch this. Democrat Senator John Fetterman admitted that Democrats are responsible for the shutdown. I don't know if I would have used the word admitted. I mean, he's been pretty clear with his stance on this. He voted against it. John Fetterman's one of only, I think it's 2 Democrats that voted against the shutdown. So, Fetterman's on the side of rationality and reason and logic, common sense.
That's why shutting the government is really what the Democratic Party wants to do. And I follow country, then party. And it's the wrong thing for the country in a period of chaos. I refuse to vote to shut our government down. I absolutely would love to have...
And even Chris Cuomo is clapping for that.
I would love to have a conversation about extending the tax credits for health care. Absolutely. But I would remind everybody, too, this was designed by the Democratic Party to expire at the end of the year. This is not something taken from by the Republicans. They were designed to expire. Now let's have a conversation to extend it and not shut our government down, and let's continue to have.
Putin has already agreed to that.
Yep. And the reason they were designed to expire is because COVID is over. It is over. So yeah, man, John Fetterman, another based rant that he went on, and it's really interesting to see how how Chris Cuomo is kind of leaning, at least on this issue, he's agreed, and I've played a couple of clips from Chris Cuomo where he says that the shutdown's ridiculous. The Democrats are making a huge misstep by doing it. So he's in agreement with John Fetterman with regard to that, and it is bullshit. It's ridiculous, and that was kind of nice to see him say that. All right, Mark Wayne Mullen, for the 10th time, Senate Democrats just blocked the clean GOP House-passed short-term funding bill to end the Schumer shutdown. It takes 60 votes to turn the lights back on. Chucky's shutdown continues. Yes, we still need, what is it? I thought it was 5. So the yeas 51, nays at 44. So yeah, but anyway, yeah, there's at a minimum, there's several Democrats who are still refusing to vote to reopen the government. They're literally voting to shut the government down. So Shelley Moore Capito said, "We just voted for the 10th time to reopen the government. This was yet another opportunity for 5 more Senate Democrats to join the Senate GOP into putting the American people first. Again, they chose politics." Moving on to Senate Republicans, Senator Bernie Sanders can't explain why Democrats oppose our clean bipartisan bill to fund the government. And they reposted rapid response. Crazy Bernie just got wrecked on national television.
How do you think this shutdown reflects on Chuck Schumer's leadership?
Well, I think it reflects more on Mike Johnson's leadership and President Trump's leadership. This is a leadership which said it's okay to give well, how do you feel? You tell me. Think it's a good idea to give
oh my God, he can't even answer
tax breaks to the richest people in the country and then make massive cuts to healthcare for working class?
Now, look, I've been saying this time and time again, connect those two things. I really wish that Democrats would actually connect those two. They accuse Republicans of giving billions of dollars in tax breaks to billionaires, and they're doing it by taking money away from healthcare. Try to connect the expiring of the Affordable Care Act tax credits with giving billionaires tax breaks. I don't understand where those two could possibly be connected anywhere. It makes absolutely no sense. They are so unbelievably unrelated, but Democrats keep talking about it. They keep bringing it up. And I've shown it on here time and time again. Democrats, in the form of tweets, they're putting it in black and white, saying that Republicans are giving tax breaks to billionaires, and that's why we can't give decent health care to Americans.
I think Chuck Schumer has voted for continuing resolutions 13 times in the last 4 years, and he has the opportunity to vote for one again, but he's refusing to come to the table.
Amen. Got him. Oh, man, as usual, I wish I had like 10 more seconds to watch that. But, I don't have cable, so, and even if I did, I don't think I'm going to be sitting around watching CNN all night. All right, Rep. Jason Smith, this shutdown isn't about policy. It's about Democrats choosing to hurt the American people just to appease their radical base.
There's absolutely no question that this shutdown is strictly for political reasons. It's for Chuck Schumer and the liberal base of the Democrat Party just to protect their own, because there is such an extreme movement within the Democrat Party to oppose anything that Donald Trump is pushing for. And that's, in fact, why you have the shutdown.
Yeah, and I think that's why the shutdown's going to go on for months, in my opinion. A lot of the Republicans believe after this No Kings protest, which is happening this weekend, after that happens, they're going to say, okay, we'll reopen the government now. But what are they going to say, though? What is Chuck Schumer's reason going to be that, okay, we'll reopen it now that what? Now that the No Kings protest is over, which is happening in Washington, D.C. I'm just curious to know, what is their reasoning going to be if that is going to be what their decision will be after this No Kings protest? Okay, now we'll open it. I don't think that they're going to do that because it's going to make them look horrifically bad. Because what good reason are you going to have for keeping it closed in the first place so you can, posture and virtue signal your radical leftist base at this protest? But maybe they will. I don't know. I mean, Democrats are freaking lunatics these days, so really anything could happen as far as they're concerned. All right, TSA reports that TSA is blocking donations to TSA officers at Atlanta International Airport are false. We remain committed to supporting our employees throughout the government shutdown. TSA workers at Atlanta Airport may not be getting free meals and parking. And this is on 11alive.com. I mean, I'm not sure if anybody listening to this works for TSA, but if you heard that, you got it right here from TSA. It says that it's false. And I will leave the... no, that's not it. Where is it? Oh, yeah, here it is. And I'm not seeing the article, though. Oh, it just linked to 11alive.com. It didn't even link the article directly. All right, well, that sucks. So, okay. Anyway, I'll just move on. Move on down the line. House Judiciary GOP. Looks like you're paying the picture frame store instead of the troops. And this is from Rosa DeLorio. I'm at work. Republicans, where are you? Yeah, take a look at this. Look at all these freaking picture frames she's got all over her office. Speaking of lunatic. Dude, Democrats have lost their fucking marbles, man. Absolutely lost their minds. All right. The White House. Great question. This is why, Senator Sanders. Oh, yeah?
Republicans have been appealing to audiences, especially young people like myself, online using social media. Why does Republican messaging on social media seem so much more effective than Democratic messaging, and what can we do about it?
Good question.
Well, that's a great question.
He doesn't know.
I think the Republicans are effective. They have learned a lot about social media. And by the way, it doesn't hurt that their friends own all of the major social media platforms.
Oh, that is such horse shit. No, they don't. They got Elon Musk, who runs X. Who else do they have? Mark Zuckerberg. He's not a fucking Republican. And, what else is there? Instagram, Snapchat. I don't know. I'm not really big into all the different social media platforms, except, I'm on X on a daily basis because that's where the real-time news streams in. So it's the best place to get everything. But yeah, I think that's absolutely hilarious because, the left certainly controls Silicon Valley. They always have been. And I mean, that is a fair question. Of course, there is TikTok, and TikTok, I don't think they have any influence whatsoever with regard to TikTok, except, Trump allowing that deal to go through for TikTok to be owned by America by majority, which has always boggled my mind that TikTok has been banned in China since day one. It's banned. It's never been allowed in China, even though it was created by a Chinese company, and it was dropped on the American public like a freaking atomic bomb in the form of just absolute societal decay, given a lot of our young Americans freaking TikTok brain, goldfish brain, really. All right, Chairman Joe Gruthers. I'm not sure why Tim Kaine and Virginia Democrats are having such a hard time with this. Jay Jones needs to drop out of the race. He is unfit to serve as Attorney General, plain and simple. And Jay Jones, once again, he's the one that sent those unhinged text messages to a friend saying that he dreams about his opponent getting murdered in front of his children. And DNC Research, Democrat Senator Tim Kaine triples down on his defense of Jay Jones. And they've got a couple of quotes here, so let's just listen and watch.
So you have condemned what Jones wrote in those text messages, but and there are no Democratic officials in Virginia who have called for Jones to drop out of the race. And Republicans are seizing on that as a political opportunity and basically saying, hey, Senator Kaine, you don't have the moral high ground here. What do you think of that?
Well, and look, the Republican gubernatorial candidate in Virginia has said some vile things, and we haven't called on her to drop out of the race. The voters are going to make this decision.
He's not going to tell.
Jay Jones' texts were abhorrent, and they are indefensible. But I also have known Jay Jones for 25 years, and I put that knowledge on a scale.
Oh, so that supersedes everything, huh?
Than one really indefensible set of texts.
Oh, yeah, he wants to see his political opponents like murdered in front of their own children, but he's a real stand-up guy, though. That's why he's got my full endorsement. Fucking psycho, man. All right. Next one from Senate Republicans just in. Kamala Harris endorses her friend, radical Roy Cooper. Cooper was a top choice to serve as Harris's VP because of their shared agenda. Pro-crime, higher taxes, open borders. And I believe that Roy Cooper, he's running for North Carolina Senate, I think. I'm pretty sure he's running for North Carolina Senate. And he was, the governor of North Carolina, right? I'm pretty sure he was. All right. Or is. He may very well might still be, but Yeah, I do know that he was, if he's not governor right now, which I'm sure he is, but if he's not at the current time, he can't run anymore because he already served 2 terms. All right, Eric Daugherty, breaking: Senator Mitch McConnell, Republican of Kentucky, has just suffered a fall in Washington. Not a fun sight. He's 83 years old. Glad he's retiring. Yeah, well, you know what? You could say a lot of things about Mitch McConnell, but it was through Mitch McConnell that allowed us to not have to deal with, what was his name? Oh, hell, I'm drawing a blank now. Damn it, I just had it. Merrick Garland. That's who it was. Merrick Garland being on the Supreme Court. If memory serves, Mitch McConnell was the one who blocked his ability to be placed on the Supreme Court. So, but anyway, this might satisfy some people, but I don't know, man. It's just kind of sad, really, you know? But he seems okay. Toodaloo. Yeah, and he just starts walking. You could tell he knew he was about to fall. Did you see him grab dude's arm? He grabbed his arm like right before he went down. Right there. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe bad knees. I don't know. I'm not really sure what all he's got going on, but I mean, look, he's definitely establishment. Definitely not the greatest guy to have as a Republican by any stretch, but you know, I don't wish him any kind of harm. But anyway, so all right. And I've got this from, let me see, from Migracion. Migration. It's Migration. Oh, yeah, I got a word. Migration USA Official. Yesterday, the U.S. Army and USA CEHQ, the official X account for the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers headquarters, they began construction of 15 miles of the border wall at the Barry M. Goldwater Range in Arizona. This critical project protects a vital military installation and also strengthens border security and supports our brave men and women in uniform. No nation is strong without secure borders. And this is from the Department of War. Yesterday, the U.S. Army and the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers began construction of 15 miles of border wall at the Barry M. Goldwater Range in Arizona. This critical project protects a vital military installation, strengthens border security, and supports our brave men and women in uniform. No nation is strong without secure borders. Totally copy-paste. Total copy-paste, but hey, at least they got a video here. Check this out.
There you go.
I think somebody writes Charlie Kirk on here. Yeah, there you go, for Charlie. Yeah, for Charlie. Keeping America great, keeping America strong. Continuing his legacy. Yeah, they ain't getting over that one. The wall just got 10 feet taller. Yeah, that's crazy how tall that is, man. Now, I know it's an engineering undertaking and it takes a lot of specialties in order to construct the border wall, but I bet there's probably a lot of menial labor that occurs on the site, and I think it would be quite fitting if they took some of these criminal illegal aliens that they rounded up, and if for whatever reason, if we got to hang on to them for a period of time, like if they commit a crime and we have to sentence them to prison or something like that, send them out there to build the damn wall, man. Have them build the wall. Okay, let's go to the next one. Kingsley Wilson, this is fake news from a known hoaxer. Not one Pentagon lawyer with knowledge of these operations has raised concerns regarding the legality of these strikes, which, by the way, this is in reference to Breonna Taylor. New reporting from Natasha Bertrand, how the Pentagon sidelined lawyers while testing the legal limits of military action. Anyway, Kingsley Wilson says, our current operations in the Caribbean are lawful under both the United States and international law, with all actions in complete compliance with the law of armed conflict. And of course, they're talking about blowing up the narco-trafficking boats, the vessels out there. So Kingsley Wilson, official Department of War account for the press secretary. So she's the press secretary for the Department of War. So we'll take a look at this and see what they're saying.
The Pentagon is under fire from dozens of media organizations protesting new restrictions on journalists that cover the Defense Department.
That's right. Nearly all major...
Oh, okay. So that's what they're talking about. Okay, I thought they were talking... Well, they mentioned the Caribbean, so I thought they were talking about the narco-terrorist vessels that they're blowing up. But no, yeah. So these are all the news organizations that are not signing the new Pentagon press rules. And Secretary of War Pete Hegseth established new rules in the Pentagon, which states that if you're in the media, you can't just waltz into the Pentagon and walk anywhere you damn well please, open up any door you damn well please, and sit in and listen to whatever the hell you damn well please. You can't do that anymore. And that's been the case in places like the White House and also in military installations across the country, probably across the world. You can't just walk in and listen and do whatever the hell you want to. But apparently in the Pentagon, they were allowed to, which is absolutely insane with all the classified shit that goes on in the Pentagon. So they changed the rules. Now they can't do that. They have to have a press badge. And there's some areas of the Pentagon that they're now restricted from accessing.
News outlets, including CNN, have turned in their press credentials today. They did it in protest. And CNN also has some new reporting on how the Pentagon...
I mean, I don't know how that's going to help them. Okay, we're going to cut ourselves off from getting information from the Pentagon and reporting back on it. I don't see how that's of any help at all. I mean, they could protest all they want, but Pete Hegseth has been quite clear. In fact, the ones who have issued letters, I've read them. I read them last week on the show. I think it was on Monday. So they issued letters. Pete Hegseth reposted them on his X account with a hand-waving sign, signaling to them that, okay, you're not going to be missed because we're not going back on this policy. So at least for the next 3 years, all of these news outlets, they're not going to have any access to the Pentagon if they're not going to sign the letter and, stick with the new rules in the Pentagon.
Top military lawyers who raised concerns that many summary firings could be illegal and might hurt the military's ability to fight. And they also raised a number of concerns about other legal issues as well.
Yeah, no question. CNN national security correspondent Natasha Bertrand is here with more. Natasha, share your reporting on what you've learned.
Yeah, so this was something I was really interested in exploring just because there are so many different ways that this Pentagon and this administration, of course, writ large, have looked to kind of push the boundaries of the law in the policies that they've enacted over the last several months. And what we learned is that earlier this year, this is one anecdote, just underscoring this, the top uniformed lawyer for the Army had begun raising concerns internally about policies being rolled out across the military, including the Texas National Guard deputizing, the Texas governor deputizing Texas National Guard soldiers to help with immigration enforcement. That is something that this lawyer was concerned about because there were questions about whether they had the appropriate training to carry out.
So what? He's a fucking lawyer. Who gives a shit?
Another issue that was raised at the time was the question of mass firings of probationary employees across the Defense Department, something that many officials at the time were raising questions about whether it was legal. And this lawyer, Lieutenant General Joe Berger, he was actually fired several weeks later. And Secretary Hegseth said that his firing, as well as the firing of the Air Force, top JAG for the Air Force, was because they potentially were going to serve as roadblocks to policies being implemented by the Commander-in-Chief. Now, I spoke to over a dozen sources.
Well, yeah, dude, if you don't get on the program of the Commander-in-Chief, he is your boss. And if you refuse to get on his program, you get fired. That's the way it should be.
Several current uniformed lawyers for this story, and they all said that this really seemed to them, these firings, like a warning shot by this administration who are intent upon remaking the military justice system. And that is something actually that Secretary Hegseth's personal lawyer, Tim Parlatore, has been involved in as well. One of the initiatives that he has been pushing, we're told, is trying to get fewer lawyers in the Pentagon, essentially move more of them out into the field so that they are not at headquarters, where, of course, these very important and often very political decisions are made that they need to be weighing in on. And just to put a bow on it here, one JAG officer actually told me, quote, Hegseth's rhetoric and policies are perceived as a bit unhinged and counterproductive, but the way forward is just to eat it and put your head down and act in accordance with
he's not political at all.
No JAG is trying to rock the boat or get
the
fired.
Lawyer.
So you can see that there has even been somewhat of a chilling
or the
effect,
Army JAG,
with
that
some
is.
of the lawyers in the military being afraid that they're going to be terminated.
I think we knew, right, that Secretary Hegseth saw these military lawyers as an obstacle, right, to some of the policies. You do a great report here where you're talking to a lot of people who are involved
Not
in this.
really. They have to do what he
and
tells
there's even
them.
questions about these lethal strikes against suspected drug traffickers. But just explain for people to understand it, and this we should remind people, it's a Pentagon where historically there have been questions about things that go up to the line of what is legal and what should be done. And I think looking back in history, there are times where there's still questions about maybe that wasn't the best idea, right? So
yeah, like Barack Obama conducting drone strikes that got Americans killed in the Middle East.
It's not as if
you mean those
lawyers
policies
who are like blocking every single thing all the time. But just explain a little bit about how they see their role when it comes to looking at the law, what they're supposed to be doing when it comes to protecting the military and American values in what the military does.
Yeah, absolutely. So the JAG Court, they are expected
This
to
has
be
got to
kind
be a
of
slow
neutral
day in the news
arbiters
for them.
of the law, and they are expected to provide extremely candid legal advice to commanders and troops all the way up and down the chain of command so that they can disobey unlawful orders is the key, right? If there is an unlawful order that comes down, they need to know that that is either legally questionable or completely unlawful. And I think
Oh, well, that's interesting. So it's as if there's been no unlawful funny business going on in the Pentagon because they haven't blown any whistles. They haven't come out and said anything like that. They're just they're talking about their feelings. A lot of feelings
Secretary
happening.
Hegseth has viewed them as overbearing, out of touch, particularly when it comes to rules of engagement. He's called them jagoffs pejoratively in his books previously. He clearly views them as more of an obstacle than a benefit, something, of course, that JAG officers would very much disagree with, saying that they're necessary in order to uphold the laws of the Constitution and domestically.
It's a great report. You clearly put a lot in.
Well, he's not purging them forever. I mean, whatever. I don't know. I guess maybe he got something out of that. I got a little bit out of it, but a lot of it was based on opinion, it sounds like. All right, U.S. Secret Service. This week's joint training at Mar-a-Lago will increase protection at the high-profile facility, improving coordination with Palm Beach County Sheriff, Town of Palm Beach, and local partners. A big thanks to everyone involved. Our protective mission relies on your support and coordination. So they're doing something at Mar-a-Lago. Yeah, Mar-a-Lago. And, yeah, I don't know if maybe they have, like, new agents or what they're doing, but sounds like they're just doing drills at Mar-a-Lago. So, yep, so that comes directly from the U.S. Secret Service. And the National Guard yesterday, 176 wing airmen evacuated approximately 300 residents displaced by devastation from Typhoon Halong, which struck the west coast of Alaska late last week. The Alaska National Guard continues to work with federal, state, and local partners to support recovery operations. I didn't know that a typhoon hit Alaska. That's crazy. I really doubt it was still a full-blown typhoon. It was probably the remnants, like a tropical depression kind of situation. But man, look at all that. That's wild, dude. All those people being airlifted and evacuated. So, yeah, anyway, that happened. Pretty crazy. All right, U.S. Department of Energy, Secretary Wright on the impact of AI on the energy sector. Let's hear what he has to say about this.
It's hard to overstate
AI.
the catalytic effect of artificial intelligence. You know, we're early on in it. When I was at the Plasma
Why does this
Fusion
look like
Center
it's from the
in
1980s?
Princeton or any other facility, the impact of AI to replicating the center of the sun on Earth is hard. This is a very helpful tool scientifically to do that, but it's also been massively political catalytic. Every politician, every state around the world, energy went from like one of the issues. People used to tell me, it's just one sector of the economy. We don't need to do that as much here. And my answer always was, it's not one sector of the economy.
It is the economy.
The sector of the economy that enables every other sector. Like energy's different. It's special because it makes everything else possible. Because of AI, that belief is widespread today. Everybody's excited about energy innovation, energy advancement in their state. It's bipartisan. It's across the country.
Yeah, and you can't run AI on solar panels and wind.
It's a hard problem. We need that support. We need that welcoming business environment for fusion companies and building fusion research facilities.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, we absolutely do. Nuclear energy, any kind of energy we can find, especially with pushing the AI dominance. They're working on it right now. They're investing hundreds of billions, probably trillions of dollars into AI at this point. And yeah, you're not going to get that with wind and solar. You got to use much more powerful forms of energy. But I mean, like, imagine if all the gasoline just disappeared. I mean, like, nothing would function anymore. So yeah, I mean, energy is everything. It makes the world go around. U.S. currency. Back in 1791, Alexander Hamilton established the Bank of the United States to create a system of credit for the government. To see more of the history and timeline of U.S. currency, click here. So if you want to check out some of the history on our banking system, Alexander Hamilton established the Bank of the United States. I believe it was on this day, right? I think it was on this day. All right. Anyway, William Martin, this is complete fake news. The Marine Corps said they are not shutting down the I-5 highway and that the event at Camp Pendleton is a training exercise. Also, President Trump is paying the troops despite Chuck Schumer's efforts to hold their salaries hostage. So he's responding to Gavin Newsom, who said Donald Trump and J.D. Vance think that shutting down the I-5 to shoot out missiles from ships is how you respect the military. Put aside your vanity parade and pay our troops instead. That is hilarious. Absolutely hilarious that he's like, just pay the troops. Because it's the Democrats who are trying to keep the troops from getting paid. I don't think that they're going to take that to court, but there were some rumblings in the media with regard to the possibility of Democrats considering taking the Republicans to court over redirecting those research and development funds out of the Pentagon and into the military payroll so they could get paid on Wednesday. I haven't heard any updates on that if they're actually going to do that, but it would be insane if they did that. But I would not be surprised, though, if the Democrats did that. So anyway, and he was replying to Midas Touch. Sources tell Midas Touch the White House will shut down portions of the Interstate 5 for Vice President J.D. Vance's Marine Corps spectacle during No Kings protest, triggering chaos, gridlock, and outrage as troops go unpaid during the shutdown. Well, they got paid. They did. They got paid on Wednesday. So that happened. And we got confirmation from William Martin, who is the special assistant to the president and communications director to the vice president. And this is his official White House account. So he's confirming they're not shutting down the interstate. Marines showcase amphibious capabilities for Marine Corps' 250th birthday, which is on November 10th, isn't it? I think I got that right. I'm pretty sure. I wasn't in the Marine Corps. Obviously, I wasn't in the Marine Corps, or else I would know that 100%. But I think it's on November 10th. Anyway, Camp Pendleton, California, Marine Expeditionary Force will host a live-fire amphibious capabilities demonstration at Red Beach, Camp Pendleton, followed by a community beach bash at Del Mar Beach on Saturday, October 18th, 2025, to mark the Marine Corps' 250th birthday and America's semi-quincentennial. The force training activities plan to ensure our readiness to defend the homeland and protect our nation's interests abroad against emergent and unprecedented challenges today and in the years ahead. The capabilities demonstration will feature integrated Navy and Marine Corps operations across air, land, and sea. All training events will occur on approved training ranges and comport with established safety protocols. No public highways or transportation routes will be closed. In advance of the training event and demonstration, we conducted a detailed risk assessment. All participants will be briefed, medical, fire, and emergency assets will be on site, and multiple rehearsals will be conducted. All air, surface, and ground movements are scripted and rehearsed in accordance with standard operating procedures and established safety checklists. Dude, this sounds badass, man. That'd be awesome to be there. See all that going on. That would be amazing. All right, U.S. Department of Energy posted 13 hours ago. Energy Department closes loan guarantee to strengthen U.S. grid reliability. Out of Washington, U.S. Secretary of Energy Chris Wright today announced the Department of Energy's Loan Programs Office closed a loan guarantee to strengthen grid reliability and ensure lower electricity costs across the Midwestern region of the United States. In accordance with President Trump's executive order strengthening the reliability and security of the United States electric grid, the $1.6 billion loan guarantee to a subsidiary of American Electric Power will reconductor and rebuild around 5,000 miles of transmission lines across Indiana, Michigan, Ohio, Oklahoma, and West Virginia. The project will create over 1,000 construction jobs and enhance grid reliability and capacity in rapidly growing areas. Quote, thanks to President Trump and the Working Families Tax Cut, the Energy Department is ensuring the American people will have access to affordable, reliable, and secure energy for decades to come, said U.S. Secretary Wright. The president has been clear. America must reverse course from the energy subtraction agenda of past administrations and strengthen our electrical grid. This loan guarantee will not only help modernize the grid and expand transmission capacity, but it will help position the United States to win the AI race and grow our manufacturing base. And I'll read the rest. So the loan guarantee, which was carefully evaluated under the new LPO guidance directed by Secretary Wright, delivers on the Trump administration's promise to responsibly steward taxpayer dollars and unleash American energy dominance. The AEP financial close is also the first closed loan guarantee under the Energy Dominance Financing (EDF) program created by the Working Families Tax Cut, also known as the One Big Beautiful Bill Act. President Trump signed the legislation into law earlier this year. All electric utilities receiving an EDF loan must provide assurance to DOE that financial benefits from the financing will be passed on to the customers of that utility. DOE remains committed to using all tools at its disposal, including the LPO, to deliver affordable, reliable, and secure energy for the American people. All right. Good news, good news. 5,000 miles, man. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent. Today's monthly Treasury statement reflects what I've been saying. Strong private sector-led growth alongside constrained federal spending means the deficit to GDP will take care of itself. Fiscal year 2025's deficit to GDP is now projected to be under 6%, and with continued fiscal restraint, we can reach 3% by 2028. September's monthly surplus of $198 billion was the largest surplus of any September on record and 147% higher than last year. That is significant. And from Rapid Response 47, from the president, we're also taking historic steps to vastly expand access to insurance coverage for fertility care, including IVF. Effective immediately for the first time ever, we will make it legal for companies to offer supplemental insurance plans specifically for fertility. Now, I know there's different schools of thought. There's different sides of the debate on this. But anyway, here, let's hear what Trump has to say.
Today, we're also taking historic steps to vastly expand access to insurance coverage for fertility care, including IVF, something that, as you know, was not covered. Effective immediately for the first time ever.
Immediately.
We will make it legal for companies to offer supplemental insurance plans specifically for fertility. That's never been done before. We're signing it in.
That's going to make a lot of liberal women happy.
Americans will be able to opt in
but
to
Orange Man
coverage, just as they get vision and dental insurance. They're going to get fertility insurance for the first time.
All right. I mean, that's what they were demanding, and he's essentially giving them what they want. I don't know. I think, like the majority of women who get IVF, they're older, aren't they? Isn't that like one of those procedures that they have to undergo if they're in like geriatric pregnancy or something? I mean, I have no idea, honestly, but at least that's what I think it is. I don't know. But the best thing you could do is have kids when you're young, in your early 20s. That's the best time. I mean, I was 22 when my daughter was born, so that's the time to have kids, when you're young and healthy, and you still got your whole life ahead of you, and you don't have to worry about being a senior citizen raising kids. You know what I mean? All right, Rapid Response 47. The president opens the curtains to show off construction of the new ballroom, which is not paid for by the taxpayers. No, it's not paid for by the taxpayers.
We started the process, and we have it concluded, and it's actually starting right behind us. And if you look, this is really a knockout panel. Should I show you? I guess maybe.
Should I show you?
So, we don't really want you to walk on there, but you can take a look if you want. There it is, because we took out all the strength from underneath that collapsed. We collapsed it over the next few days. It's going to be demolished. Everything out there is coming down, and we're replacing it with one of the most beautiful ballrooms that you've ever seen.
All right. Well, and if memory serves, I think it's supposed to be ready by this time next year. I'm pretty sure they're going to build it fairly quickly. But anyway, that is all that I have for today. It was kind of a short one, but anyway, here's the shutdown clock. Let me full screen it. 15 days, 19 hours, 47 minutes, and 56 seconds. That is the current state of the shutdown, with nothing in sight because Democrats are just digging their heels in. We'll just have to see what happens. I think it's going to go on for months, but that's just my opinion. So anyway, if you enjoyed the video, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. It would really mean a lot to me if you subscribe. And I'll drop a new show every evening, Monday through Friday, covering the swamp and everyone living in it, the politicians, the bureaucrats, agencies, and everything else. I also post daily episodes on X, so feel free to comment over there too if you'd like. And thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a great rest of your night, and God bless America.